Hello there. My name is Nick. I'm not really sure who the audience is going to be for this, but today I'm going to show you a few different ways that I regularly query data and show you specifically kind of the power of Sumproduct and I think there are certain there why I think there are certain situations why it's better than SUMIFS and INDEXMATCH. If you're not familiar with SUMIFS or INDEXMATCH, this will give you kind of a brief overview of those as well. But if you want to do a deeper dive on those, I would look up other resources on the internet. So here we have an output that we're trying to create from some source data. So let's say you get this source data and you're trying to put it in a cleaner output. So in this case, I have a finance background, so just simplifying revenue and cost to show profit, and we're given the source data that has revenue 1, revenue 2, revenue 3, and these could be different revenue lines. There's a services, there's a contract component, and then there's a products component, or you have 3 different tiers, and then separate costs. This isn't a finance deep dive, so just you could say COGS or operating expenses, but in this case we're just doing cost 1, cost 2, cost 3, and I do calculate the total revenue and total costs here, but say you want to put this in kind of a simpler format that you're referencing this source data from. So historically, the ways that I've done this have been through SUMIFS and INDEXMATCH. SUMIFS is very powerful. You can do a lot with it, and you can have a lot of different criteria. So let's start with the SUMIFS. So what we want here is it's January, the month ending January 31st, 2021, showing the revenues for it. So we want that to pull this number, this 600 number. Now you could, link directly to this, like this, but if there are changes in the source data, then it can be a little tricky. And if you want to change certain things in the output, then it's just not as flexible. And say this date changes to February, then this number doesn't change. So we want to make it a little more dynamic. So the way that I've done this, so I want to sum the revenues and I want to sum the costs. Okay, so SUMIFS, the first criteria is it's asking for the sum range. So we have January. You want to sum these because we're summing both the revenue and the costs. We want this month to rotate each month as we drag it along. And then we want the criteria range to be these categories. So these categories over here, I created, or kind of the user of this source data would create and put them in their own column if they don't already exist. And so these are the categories I've created. And so for this, I am summing the revenues and the costs. So this is the criteria range 1, which is not going to change. So we're going to lock it. And the criteria here is this revenues. But we want this to be dynamic so that when we drag it down to costs, it still works. Okay. So we do this and we get the 600. If we go to costs, we get 100. So look at this, 600, 100, cool, checks out. So here, easy breezy, you're not familiar with shortcuts, so Control Shift, hold down, and then arrow key over will highlight the entire row, and then Control R will drag the formula all the way over. And so here, December 25th, it's showing 878. December 25th, it's showing 878. Don't worry about this number yet. So 878 total revenue in December of 2025. So that looks good. Costs, we can also drag back to the right, 406. And here we have the 406. So we're looking good. Profit, so this is a very, very basic example, but revenue minus costs equals profit. I mean, this is not necessarily a finance instruction, so let's not worry about getting too detailed there. Profit margin, something people like to look at, as you can tell here, or as you can see, 83% profit margin is good. The higher the number, the better. 53% is worse. So the profit margin is getting worse. That's just the way that data I set up is. So don't worry too much about it. What's most important is that the information is correct. So this is our monthly SUMIFS, right? But what if we want to do this yearly? So the way that I've done this yearly in the past is I'll put this kind of column above the month row, and this will do the year. So I can pull out the specific year. And these are yearly dates. So the year ending December 31st of 2021, 2022, 2023, 24, and 25. Okay. So for this one, I want to sum all of the years or all of the months in 2021. So here I would do SUMIFS. I would do, pull this. This is a sum range, right? Boom. Lock it. Criteria. Year. Lock it. And then the year. And then we can lock this row. So we do that. Okay, good. Good, 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 good. Now as I told you, I did lock this range. You know, this isn't actually correct because if we do this, look, it's 7,200. We want it to be this one. So we do that. It is the correct number. An easier way to do this would be, instead of locking the sum range totally, we just lock the columns. So boom and boom. Okay. So this is showing our yearly profit margin. Now, what are the drawbacks to this? So the biggest drawback I have is you have to make sure that the sum range is matched to the sum month, which is not inherently, it's not automatically going to do, right? Like if we delete this, it's not playing any role in the calculation besides for the yearly, because this is run off of the year. The year of nothing in Excel is, according to Excel, it's 1900. So it's a tough year. Wasn't around. Don't miss it. Not sure what happened there. So, okay. So that's kind of my issue with this, is that there's no way with SUMIFS, at least in the way that I've set this up, to mess with the date or change the date and have the data change. Okay, so that's one of the things that I like about index match, which that will be the next method, is index match. Now, the issue with index match is going to become clear pretty quickly, which is why this revenue is in red, because index match, as we get into it, you'll see what I'm talking about. So if we do index, and so the index is essentially, we're going to pull a big table. So our data sits here. This is all of the data that we're looking at. So this is what we want to index, okay? And then we want to pull from that. So there's going to be a point, like an XY point, a column and a row that corresponds to what we want. What do we want? We want the January 2021 revenues, right? So the second argument of the index column, essentially what it does is you enter a row, you enter a column, it gives you that corresponding date. Now, we're not going to enter these directly because that doesn't provide as much flexibility. So instead, we're going to have Excel do it for us by doing a match function. And this is going to say, okay, we want to look up January 2021, and we're going to lock that row. And we want this, where do we want to look it up? As I say that, I realize I made a mistake. So where do we want to look this up? This is actually a row that we're looking up. So we're looking up revenues, which is going to be locked like that. And we're going to look up the revenues, you know, and where does this show up? So we go to the categories we created. This will be where we want the lookup to be. So we're going to lock this. We want it to be 0 means exact. So we want it to be the exact match for revenues. And then, so that's our row. Our column is, we want it to look up, okay, which column do we want? We want the column that has this date in it, okay? So January 31st, 2021. And this is going to look up here. So in this range, and we want it to be an exact match. And this is going to give us $100. So you'll see the issue is that, you know, I drag this to the right. Nice, cool. $100 is not, that's different than 600, right? If we go to our thing, it's, or go to our source data, sorry, not our thing, we'll see that, oh, it's because it's pulling revenues, which was the unique identifier I was using for the SUMIFS, but it only pulls the first instance of it. Now there are lookup functions where you can pull the last function, or you can pull the last instance, but long story short, when there are multiple, when there are not unique identifiers corresponding to your data, index match is less useful. So the way to get around this is to create this identifier total revenue. Okay, so you'll see here, there's an issue, right? But if I use the same formula and it pulls not LTM revenue, that's a later exercise, it pulls total revenue, then, oh, that was a, I pasted the value instead of the formula, classic. So if I do total revenue, then it's right. Or at least it matches our 600 here. So here we would drag this to the right, and you'll see it matches above, which we already checked was correct. So the total revenue is what we have to use for, we have to use a different identifier than revenues that we used for the SUMIFS because it requires, index match requires a unique lookup, a unique identification entry, for lack of a better word. So we're going to have the same issues with costs. So I created an LTM, a total costs here. The LTM I'll get to in a second. So costs, you'll see I do this. It doesn't like it. It pulls $10, which we can see is the very first one. Not great. So let's do total costs instead, and we're good to go. It matches above. Profit matches. Cool. Now, how would you do the total revenue or the yearly revenue? Now you could do a SUMIFS function, similar, I mean, pretty much exactly the same as this, but in the theme of doing index match, there's a better way to do this. So I would do index, what are we indexing? These are good questions. We're indexing this data set, and we're matching the row of, we want to do the LTM revenue. We want to look this up in the categories. We want it to be an exact match. And then we want the date, as I spell match wrong, we want the date to be January 21st, or December, the year ending December 31st, 2021. So we're looking up that, and where are we looking that up into? We're looking this up here. Exact match, good to go. So you'll see we get we get the right number. Good job. No, it's so what this is doing is, Nick, what is LTM revenue? What is this new thing that's in blue? Okay, so I created a item in the source data that says, you know, because index match can't sum. That's index match doesn't sum. It gives you, it returns a data point based off of an XY coordinate or a row and a column. So what you can do to make it work is create a new category, name it LTM revenue, and then December 31st is the LTM stands for last 12 months. So this just sums up each 12 months, and I drag this across to show kind of the yearly revenue at each month. And because we're pulling, I know this says a year, but it's actually a date. So 12/31/2021, and then this is just saying 12 months later. So it's looking up 12/31/2021, and it's going to this file, or this cell, sorry. So the costs going to be the same exercise, LTM costs, and then you'll see our profit matches. So total revenue in here, it's going to run into, you know, we can't use total revenue for the yearly because it won't sum. Index match can't sum. As I mentioned, you could do a SUMIF to reference the year and then sum each year like we did above. Yeah. So here is where I think Sumproduct makes some of this a little easier. Not that, you know, maybe it hasn't been super straightforward so far, but Sumproduct is the best way that I've found to do this. And I've been a big index match guy. I've been a big SUMIFS guy. You know, I've done with index match. You could do this and create. You could create three different. You could do plus index match. You know, revenue 1, revenue 2, revenue 3 to get to the total. But that is, you know, requires a lot of time, and that would be a much longer formula. So SumProduct. I guess we can take a step back and explain what SumProduct is, just real quick. So SumProduct, say you have this, this, and just creating data for the sake of an example, and this is the total, okay? So SumProduct is taking array 1, it's multiplying it by array 2, and it's giving you this. Now, what it's doing each of these individually, right? So it's doing this times this, and then it's you know, it's all addition. Oh, I mean, that's an addition sign. I guess let's just do this up here so it looks a little cleaner. So 100 plus 100 plus 100 is 400, which, you know, not Albert Einstein, but I know some stuff. So array 1 times array 2, the first instance of that times the next one. So for SumProduct, very easy. Array 1 multiplying 5 by 20 plus 5 by 20 plus 5 by 20. Okay, so giving us 400. Now, if you do, you know, why are these all the same, Nick? These are good questions. You know, it doesn't matter. It's all going to just be the same. So that's what SumProduct is doing. Now, in this example, what do we want SumProduct to do? This is going to be a very different formula, or the way I'm doing this is going to look a lot different than this SumProduct function, okay? And I'll try to explain it, but I'm not a math magician or an Excel wizard, but here we go. So SumProduct, array 1. So what do we want to do here? Well, the array, so essentially what we're trying to do is we have a big array of data, right? And we want to find X and Y coordinates. We want to find both X and Y coordinates, and we want to be able to sum ranges that fit multiple criteria, okay? So in this first one, we want to do, you know, the date. So similar to index match in this portion, okay? And so the first array is the date. Lock it. And what do we want this array to equal? We want this array to equal the month that we're in. So we lock this. We lock the row so we can make it dynamic. And then we want to multiply this array, which is going to return a 1 if January 31st, 2021 equals the data, and a 0 if it doesn't. We want to multiply that by the columns that we're using, okay? So here, and I forgot to add a parentheses, equals, well, what do we want this to equals? We want it to equal to revenue. Lock that. And so this is essentially giving us a coordinate of find January 2021, and then find revenues in this second array, and then sorry, I think it's just messed up a little bit. And then once that happens, we want it to return we want it, so that's going to be an X and Y coordinate, right? Or it's going to be an X and Y coordinate. So the array that we're interested in pulling this from or analyzing is going to be kind of the data array that we've been using, and we lock it. And then boom, boom. It doesn't like it. This is one of those classic things that you hope doesn't happen when you're recording a video. And then it does. All right, hold on. So Sumproduct array 1 is here. We got to do another parentheses. Product array 1 is this F4 equal to this lock multiplied by this. Oh, I think I know why I messed up. Not why I messed up. F4 equals this, and then the array is this whoops. Okay. Turn 600. It's like magic, guys. And I meant to do this here, actually. Don't worry about the reference. I'll fix that. The bottom, the below one is for the next step, in case you're getting too excited. So this is our revenues, 600. As I mentioned, it matches. And I know I'm a little late in the video, but the color green usually means link to another cell. Red means just not good. Either negative or something's wrong, or in this case, I'm just using it to highlight something's wrong. Here I'm just going to format, and there we go. Okay. So you'll see that the SUMPRODUCT function is kind of the best of both worlds, because we don't have to worry about the range it's in, like the sum range, right? Like this sum range it changes every one. It has to be, dragged across. Here, it's not the case. It's just pulling, it's just corresponding, let me look for July 2025 and the array. And then for the costs, because, I did this so well, it's going to work with the costs, and you'll see our profit is the same. So, okay, Sumproduct, that was powerful. I know it was a little painful, but we got there. How can this be, what's even better about this? So there are two different ways to do the yearly one. And so kind of instead of having to put the 2021 and either do a SUMIFS or an index match, we can do a Sumproduct where we do the year return years equal to the year equal to year of what we're looking up, and then multiply that by this output. And of course it doesn't work. Book. Oh, because I forgot a bracket. I think that's why. Yeah. So here you know, voila, and then we can do the costs to go down. Now, love this. I think it's good. I think this is cleaner than the index match, the SUMIFS function that I previously went over. There I think is an even cleaner way to do this from a yearly perspective. There might be there's probably a cleaner way to do this in every sense of the word, but just that I'm aware of. So Sumproduct the year, and essentially it's the same exercise we did for the month, but we're adding one more criteria. So we do the year of going to our source data, of that with equal to the year of this. So that's criteria 1, right? And then we want to multiply this by the column that we're looking for, which is, as you may recall, our unique identifiers. We want this to equal the revenues, and then we want to return the data table or the corresponding entries. So I'm just making sure this is going to work, which I think it will. Yeah. So this is maybe even a cleaner way to do this, although as you can see it's wrong, which you don't always love. And I believe the reason it's wrong is because I didn't lock my array, which that will make it wrong. So lock the array, good to go. And then costs, I was really set up to say good to go there. The reason it's not good to go is because we didn't lock the row. So a lot of this stuff, I wouldn't say I'm an expert at it. This video is 35 minutes long, we're in the 34th minute, and I feel like I've, tripped over a few things. But as you continue to dig in, and as I continue to dig in, I think we will all get better. But that is the power, I think, of Sumproduct and how it is a cleaner and potentially even more elegant solution than INDEXMATCH and SUMIFS, and I'm looking forward to using it more in the future. This is probably the nerdiest thing I've ever done, and if you made it this long, props to you. I hope you have a wonderful day, and give them hell out there in your Excel. Bye.